It was another disappointing game, just like the 1-0 win in the opening game against Cologne, but with a worse result. 1-1 they only drew at Bochum. Of course, the same result, which derailed their title challenge last season, or at least was one of the first, or at least was not conducive to winning the title, shall we say. Stephan, we talked about Terzic. How much is it down to him, and how much should we perhaps be a bit more generous and say Dortmund are rebuilding the midfield? There's a lot of new players. It will just take a bit more time for things to gel properly.
It might as well. He's always been a slow starter every season, or when he took over for his first stint. He needed a couple of games. What was his first full or second full preseason? But they never really had a preseason because they went on tour to the US, and did not go in a training camp, unlike Bayern Munich, who had a full training camp. And he's been complaining that he didn't have it. And he brought in Sabitzer and Nemcha, obviously two players to replace Bellingham. And system is not in place at this moment. And like Christoph was saying, they are already losing patience over Terzic. So they need results. They need them soon. They're playing Heidenheim, newly promoted side, on Friday, I believe. And they will need to not only win, but win with confidence and show they can do it. But maybe they will also need new structures. They don't really have wingers at the moment. Adeyemi is not really in form. Reina has never been a winger. Dino Gittins, the young Englishman, has injury problems. He only just returned, so it'll take a long, long time, but I'm not sure if he'll get all the time he needs.
Let me bring out in a moment the Bochum perspective of the game and leading back to Borussia, because there were many doubts in the Bochum camp before the game, after the terrible start to the season, going out in the German Cup at Bielefeld in the third division, losing 5-0 in Stuttgart with a terrible performance. But what surprised me is that Bochum was able to not only control, but kind of overwhelm Borussia Dortmund, especially in the first half, just by returning to their core qualities, that is determination, fighting spirit. They were also better organized and so on. And Borussia Dortmund, and some of the players said it, were almost surprised by it. I mean that's so strange to be surprised, because it's even if it's only the small derby compared to the big one against Schalke. You know what's going on. It was a third 1-1 between Bochum and Dortmund in a row after Bochum went up again. And for me, among the 3 1-1s, it was the worst performance by Borussia Dortmund, because Bochum wasn't even lucky, but they deserved the point, but they could have won the game. There is very often, Stephan, the tendency in Dortmund to talk about the mentality of the team. And also Julian Brandt said something, that everybody is responsible to be in shape, every of the player to be in shape at the start of the season. And obviously they are not. And being overwhelmed by this Bochum team, does this have to do with mentality, or is it more a lack of organization, or, as Raphael said, that things have to gel? How do you see it?
I think we also have to put the 27th of May into our thoughts here, because it's still a traumatic experience. Dortmund were en route to win the championship. Bochum away had derailed them for the 1-1 in late April. and but they are still on course to win the the Bundesliga at least. They didn't do it because they were so fearful that day, and they didn't really digest it so far. It feels like it's a traumatic experience, and then losing Bellingham, the center of your midfield, losing Guerrero, a player who can free yourself from pressing situations, if it's from left back or from central midfield. So there are a couple of factors, but mentality comes into play. It's a bit weird hearing, I think it was Gregor Kobel saying, we were surprised by the intensity Bochum came at us. So if you're playing Bochum away, that's the only way they can have a success in the game, is to attack you, to go into those duels, direct duels. You have to be prepared for that. So it's not organization, it's mentality again. It's always mentality with Borussia. And Edin Terzic already tried to get Marco Reus out of the equation, and he benched him for the first time, not for the first time, but the first time this season. Trying to bring in new stability with Sabitzer and Nemcha in midfield. So he was playing 3 central midfielders with Emre Can, Nemcha, and Sabitzer. But no, you have to win the second balls, and you have to be prepared for Bochum to go at you and to play long balls like ahead of the 1-0, where they were caught out on the right backside.
Stefan, mentality is also a byword for quality. Players who are always on it, are always focused. That's what makes them very special. Do you sense that after Jude Bellingham's departure, which apparently was seen not as something universally negative, at least in some sections of the Dortmund dressing room, if reports are to be believed, that Dortmund lack a little bit of the X factor this season? It seems to me that the players that have come in are all solid, all good, very good players. But I don't get the sense of excitement and the sense of awe that we've had over the last few years, or over some of the individual players that Dortmund has had. It doesn't seem to be there this season. At least we haven't seen it yet.
No, we haven't seen it yet. There's Julian Brandt who can be special. He tried to at least be special on Saturday. He had a few moments for Dortmund, but there are no players to be excited about. Like you're saying, Bellingham, Haaland, Sancho the previous years. But that's also because they changed their philosophy from buying young and talented players from abroad to bringing in more German internationals, or in the case of Sabitzer, players who speak German tongue and who've known the league for many years. So there's only one player. He only featured in the Mainz match so far, Duan Will, young winger, who gives you some sort of like X factor, as you were saying. But we don't know yet, because we've only seen him for 20 minutes, and there's nothing to be excited about. Unlike Leverkusen, for instance, who brought in Boniface from Royal Union Saint-Gilles from Belgium, but he played in Germany a couple of times last season in the Europa League, and you could already see this player is a real deal. Dortmund scouting has changed over the past few years because they wanted to bring in stability. So they were a much older team now, and less exciting, like the Manic Street Preachers.